Hello, and welcome to another episode of 207 Aikido. It's a long one today. I'm sharing with you my seminar that I gave at the Vassar Aikido Festival a week or two ago. I'm also testing out my microphone after a couple of large men took falls while wearing it at the festival. Guys, this is why we can't have nice things. So in my session, people asked me to share some of the things that we've been playing with and experimenting with and sharing on the blog. This was my first chance to share some of this stuff with a new audience, a live audience, and it was really out of left field for a number of people. This was largely Tamiki Aikido, a sports Aikido crowd, and some of this stuff really was pretty out there for them. And I'm perhaps not the best ambassador, but I did what I could. If this is interesting to you, you might also want to check out the essay that I posted a couple of weeks back while I was at Vassar. I had a chance to read that and reread it and edit myself. So I think I was probably a little bit more clear in my essay. So again, if this is interesting, maybe you want to check that out as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, the URL is 207aikido.com. So basically, I'm just going to post my session without editing it too much. It's not the most clear thing in the world, but hopefully along with the essay, some of this stuff will get through. I do want to say a couple of things, because this in particular was sort of confusing to people in the seminar. There's two types of practice, two overarching types of practice that I introduced in the seminar. The one was the stuff that Henry Kono does, and again, I'm not the best ambassador for this. I'm only just starting to scratch the surface. There are a number of people, especially Henry, who could have presented this better than me, but I did what I could. And the thing about Henry's practice is that both people are trying to reach the center. So it's very, very soft. Both people are very soft. In the other type of practice, the sort of connection drill stuff that I did, it doesn't work the same way if both people are very soft. So in the connection drill type practice, that was like the Nikkyo stuff and whatever that you'll see, in that practice, Tori, right, Nage, is going to remain soft and sensitive. But uke, it really works best, especially when you're starting. Go ahead and give a firm grasp. Don't be a jerk. Don't sort of change your intention as it goes along. It's not a wrestling match, but go ahead and give a firm grip, and that'll help your partner find the connection to your center. So two different types of practice. And then there, of course, there's the ukemi practice, but that's part of the spectrum of Henry's practice as I see it. And I think I'll probably throw in as well a few clips of Henry doing ikkyo just to make it more clear, because I'm not the best at doing his techniques, and Jeff Stickle did a great job as uke for someone who had never seen it, but he had never seen it and he was only introduced to it by me. So I think it'll help to show Henry doing the technique and just show you what it really should look like. So without any further ado, here's my session at Vassar.
Charlie to go first. He's going to show something he has been experimenting in his dojo. I find it's very interesting because he posts a lot in his blog. So I thought that's very interesting, and then I think he like to share with everybody else too. So.
Okay, so basically a lot of the interesting stuff that we've been doing in our dojo and that's on the blog has been an outgrowth of some of the different groups of different Aikikai or Aikido groups that we've been visiting with. One of probably the most influential was Henry Kono, who some of the people who are already in Maine introduced me to. And he is, like, if you haven't, I guess some people may already be familiar with him, but he is the softest Aikidoka that I'm aware of, that I've seen. And his group has a very different way of training. So what I want to try to introduce in this hour is basically a third training methodology. And maybe we have more, but the big two that I think about are kata and randori. And basically these are all about creating a way to have someone attack you without actually having ill will towards your training partners and your friends. Because we don't have actual attacks, we have these different ways of faking them. In kata, you have to memorize all the steps that you're going to do. And I mean to do this, and then I mean to do this, and then I mean to do that, and it happens. And in randori, we set up these rules, so it's a game, so that we don't have to memorize what to do, but it is a structure. So this is a third unnatural way of practicing. Basically, my point being, none of them are natural, so this is also not natural. So take it for what it's worth. It's not going to teach you some things, but what I like about it is it teaches you about the moment when uke goes from aggressor to uke. And that's something that in kata we sort of sometimes think is a result of, like, I did this and then I did this and then I did all the steps and then the technique happened. And in randori it just happens like that and you usually miss it. But this is like slow motion. This slows everything down so that you can be slow enough to recognize, okay, there it was. And June and I were talking about this on Sunday and on Wednesday, and there's a feeling of like emptiness when it happens. Uke starts, they add some, they break up the harmony, they add energy, and you get to a point where that energy has been peeled off and you're at this zero empty point. And from there you can turn it any way you want. But as soon as you try to use too much intent, you end up out of that 0 point. And what you want to do is you want to spend as much time as you can in that 0 point. So this is a training method to help you get there. So the first thing I want to do, and this is just to loosen us all up, is this exercise that Henry introduced, which is basically you're going to have your hands in front of you, and what you're going to do is you're going to open them up like this. Now the temptation is to think, okay, I'm going to move my arms like this, right? And you use all your muscles, both your triceps and your biceps, and they just go like this, but that's not it. What you're doing is you're going to relax your fingers, and it's actually, you want to be at the edge here. And when I say at, your attention is at the edge. And the relaxation is just drawing your fingers out. The motion isn't in your arms, it's at the edge, and it opens them up. And we're going to have to rush through a bunch of this because there's a lot to get. So if you don't feel everything, play with it, because it took me a long time. I don't do this stuff perfectly, and I've been doing it for months and months, well, years, I guess now. But anytime you run into tension in your own arm, you feel Henry talks about armor in your forearms, in your shoulders. You want to let that armor go and just let your arms open up rather than being constricted by it. And I find the part I think about something pulling me right here, in between my pinky and my ring finger. You want to, as I get better, Henry can do it and his fingers go like this. I can't do this without tensing my forearm here. Ideally, I guess, I don't know if he's so relaxed or if his fingers are just different than mine, but it used to be by relaxing I could only get to about here. And now I can get to where my fingers are maybe straight, maybe just past straight. But I think as you lose more and more of that tension, you should be able to open up further. So the next point, now that we got to this, we're a little more relaxed. Let's do oshitaoshi, which they call ikkyo, right? And we're going to do a few things. We're going to come back to it. But, well, I'm going to say a few things, actually. So in this, both for randori and for kata, uke is really important, right? If uke doesn't do what they're supposed to do, like if they don't attack with a committed attack or know what the steps of the kata are, it doesn't work. And it's the same here. But what I want to emphasize is they're not, it looks like they're throwing themselves. And in a certain way you could say they are, but they are not. And so, Jeff, I'm going to have you do this to me, actually. So it's the one where you're turning to this, well, yeah, you're turning to the side and you back up. So actually, I'll do it to you first. So basically, as this happens, we're both going to be trying to be at this 0 point. So when Jeff comes in, there's a certain amount of tension. There's a certain amount of pressure on my hand. And once I've set that amount of pressure, it could be an ounce, it could be 5 pounds. But once that's set, I don't want it to change at all. I don't want Jeff to feel it change. I don't want to feel it change. And in this type of practice, this is like partner hypnosis. We're both trying to maintain this. If it's on the street, it's 100% on me, right? There's no reason for him to try to maintain it. And Henry tells a story about Ueshiba Sensei where someone came into practice first day and was really confused. And he said, oh, just move your arm. So the guy just moves his arm. And Ueshiba is loose enough that he can be 100% at the center point for the pair of them. So it's the reverse. But neither of us is good enough. So we're both going to be trying to get to that center point. The point is get to know this feeling, because that's the important feeling. Whether you're uke or tori, it's that feeling that this practice is to get you to know. So here, Jeff's going to push into me sort of a little bit sideways. Or, I mean, you're going to be coming straight, but it's a little bit past me. Yeah. And what I'm going to do, once that pressure has been set, I'm going to allow him to turn me. I'm blowing like a flag in the wind, just to keep that pressure the same. The thing that I add is straight back or straight forwards. And when I say straight back and straight forwards, it's between the hand and the belt. So it's not laid out on the ground. It's wherever your hand is and wherever your belt is, that's forwards. So I'm going to let Jeff move me, and I'm going to go straight back and straight forwards. So if you would do that to me. And actually, let's do it like this. So I'll do that one more time. So I'm going to have both hands up. I'm not going to move this hand. I'm evenly out at both hands. Jeff pushes. I'm going to back up. As I come around, this hand just ends up where it needs to be. I don't move it. It just ends up where it needs to be. So if you would do that to me. And again, so both up like this, and I'm just pushing in. I'm trying to maintain, as we get through this, see how you came back in? See, you're trying to push me here. Back up, back. There. And I'm loosening my shoulder so that even though Jeff isn't trying to do anything, I'm not just going down. I'm loosening my shoulder. If Jeff does the wrong thing, I'm going to keep turning. We could get stuck in this loop. We could get stuck in a lot of places. I don't necessarily go down. What I am doing is helping him out by staying at that 0 point. There. So we'll do a few things in a little bit to maybe help us out. But for now, let's try that. So both hands up. You're equally out at both. If you would push into me, I'm going to go straight back and down. Uke is more important in this. Don't give it to them, but try to get to that 0 point. Don't throw yourself, just stay there. Let's try it out. Okay, just to show you a better example, here's Henry doing ikkyo his way.
So if he moves me, the whole thing is moving. But my whole thinking is still, I'm going that way. work, it gets very, very tricky. You have to really pay attention to it. And since it's balanced, I cannot think I'm going this way or that way. I gotta keep my attention in the middle. No matter what you've done, no matter how fast. Right? So the only thing it says in Aikido is it's done with the feet. It's not done with the hands, it's done with the feet. So when he comes and does this, I could do it any weight that I want. I could do it this way if you want. Right? He comes. Right. I could do it that way. But I could do it featherweight, right? This is it. Right. The featherweight works better. Right? But then I get lighter too because I'm doing featherweight, right? You can do it instantly, right? But this end has to be loose, right? I'm not trying to do it on the front end. I couldn't do it. Right? This end is loose, right?
Okay, let's have another look at this. So I talked to a number of groups. I probably didn't talk to everybody. The problem is there's one of me and I'm not the best at this. I mean, when I went in to join this group, there's like 20 of them and they've all been doing it for 10 years. So whoever I'm with, they're just gonna be like, oh, you're doing it wrong, do it like this. And you can sort of soak it up. And unfortunately, I haven't fully soaked it up and there's only one of me. But you'll notice if when we went around, there were moments, here, let's, if you don't mind. Right, so wait, it's Peter.
Yep.
Where we'll be going around and the temptation is to do this with your shoulder. You're trying to bring the arm back up. That's what you think you have to do. You don't have to do this. So we're gonna do it wrong for a second, right? So as we're pushing in, if you want to do this too soon, I'm gonna feel that. That's what we're trying to feel less and less and less of. And it applies to any of our Tamiki techniques. Anytime you're trying to push into him, we're being super light so you can recognize it, but if we're tight in randori, it's the same thing. When he pushes into me there, it means this is a bad mechanical situation. We want to get to the good one, so...
What do I do to you?
Okay, so remember, just straight back, right? Okay. You're gonna let me turn you and you're gonna go straight back. So when you get to that point there, it just turns itself because we've reached the jiku, right? The point where it just turns around. There's a number of techniques that we could do, but I think we're gonna skip to something else, hopefully now that we're a little bit looser, which is Eric's connection drill, which has a lot of the same principles. Jeff, can I borrow you? So with this one, this is gonna look like Nikkyo, which we don't do that much in Tamiki, but right, Nikkyo being this. But we're gonna do this in a much softer way, and the point is, we're loose so that we can feel uke. As soon as I'm tight in my shoulder or my elbow, I can't feel past that tight point, but I wanna feel into uke, so I have to be loose. I don't, again, like this last one, I don't wanna move Jeff's arm. Jeff's arm is where it wants to be, and I have to let it be there. And I especially don't wanna move the jiku. So I'm gonna move around here. I'm trying to turn his arm, I guess this would be the middle finger turn. I want to turn the radius and ulna over here. So I'm getting to this point. Again, I'm trying not to move Jeff's arm. Now, if you want to picture ki extending out of your hands, that's probably going to help. I don't believe in any mystical energy, but it's really useful. So you're extending energy out of your arms, and then you're feeling into uke. Right now I'm sort of at Jeff's elbow, shoulder, you want to get into the hips, and then as soon as I feel the pressure building up in the hand somewhere, we're risking disconnecting. So I'm just trying to keep that hand feeling the same. And we get down there. It doesn't really hurt. The point is you're just sort of magnetically moving. I want to get to the point where I'm feeling Jeff move. If I feel the pressure build up over here, I don't feel Jeff moving. I feel all this pressure. I got to make this work. I don't want to feel that pressure. I just want to feel Jeff moving. So let's play with that, and I'll try to come around as much as possible. But this one's really fun, and you'll find, like for instance, the mid-level Kazushiwaza, right? You end up in this position again, so we come around here. Well, all of a sudden I'm in Eric's connection drill position. So here, let's do it as if. Right? It's the same thing. You can do it with two hands, obviously, but if you've learned that connection, all of a sudden it becomes very useful for other things. So getting used to feeling into uke. So let's give that a shot. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, again, in this particular practice, uke can go ahead and grab firmly. That's going to help your partner find the connection. So this is separate from the Henry Kono practice that I introduced previously. So what would people find more useful? To look at some of the Kazushiwaza, or to do some of the, like, almost, but importantly not quite, throwing yourself? Because I don't think we have time for both. What would be, Kazushiwaza would be more familiar probably. The ukemi would be more different. So let's have a vote here. Who wants to do different? All right. All right, we have a vote of one. We're going to do the Kazushiwaza. No. Okay. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to just show you 3 ukemi right now, and you can pick and choose with your partner what you want to do. Jeff. Okay. So basically, Jeff has the podium. His job is to stay at the edge, to stay glued to me. And from now, I'm going to attempt to take all the responsibility for being at zero on myself. So you may have to take a little because I'm nowhere near perfect, but I'm going to try to take as much as I can. What I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to push in a little bit, and we feel that pressure building up, that rebound. Now Jeff is not going to move, which means if I want to relieve that pressure, I have to relieve it through my own body. So I'm pushing in, but at the same time that makes me move my feet because I'm trying to relieve that pressure. And Jeff's going to have to bring his hand down a little bit to get it down. But basically, so this is the weird thing, I'm going to create pressure and relieve it at the same time. So we're creating it there, I'm leaning it off with my feet, I'm keeping my shoulder loose, and going down. So that's Ikkyo. Next one is like Sumiyotoshi, technically. Let's see, you can do that like this. Okay, I'm going to come in, and as pressure is building up here, doing this. Again, Jeff doesn't move, so I have to breathe this out through my arm. So a little bit faster here. I want to feel, ideally it should just, when you do it right, okay, does it creep anybody out when someone comes up behind you and touch you like this? Like someone does this, that's all right. But this is kind of creepy. Right? Right? That's the feeling we're going. That's probably because of this feeling of this, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a light touch. That's what I want to feel the whole time. So I have to move myself because it's more than that light touch. Because he's not moving. This third one, Jeff is going to move only slightly. That's because I can't hold myself up. I'm going to enter in. Yeah, and you move forward to one. But basically, I'm doing tensionagi. So I'm here. I keep that light touch, and I lift. And then, so what we're learning is to make space for our hands with our feet. And Chuck, we were talking about doing when we do the connections. And some people, you probably notice I'm getting out here and I'm doing a little coordination. Had I been better with my feet, I would have been able to make it. Because I was just trying to keep my hand the same by moving my hand. But ideally, I should be moving through with my feet so that this remains as my center the whole time as well. And that's part of what this drill is doing. We're trying to feel that magnetic feeling. That's it. Here. So, give that a shot. He feels probably easiest. This one's the most fun. Okay, so I just want to say a few words about that because that was way out of left field. A lot of people ask me, especially that last one we did, the ukemi, like what's the point? So there's a few points. The first point is just to learn how to get the tension out of yourself. You'll take better, you'll take safer ukemi. The second point is in taking the tension out of yourself, you can now feel much more tension in your partner. You can only, if I'm tense, I can only feel if my partner is tenser than me. Otherwise, I can't feel past that tension. So the looser I get, the looser I help my partner to get. And then sort of going along with that, the other point is to get better at the drill where both uke and tori are trying to make the 0 point happen. So if you can make it happen 95% on your own as uke, then you can help your partner to feel that. And the thing about it is that 0 point feeling, I was saying to Jeff, when you do this, it should feel like as tori, even though basically you're just keeping your hand there, maybe raising it up and down, because they've got that connection, hopefully, you should feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing this really well. It should feel like you're doing it right, except you don't have to move your feet, basically. But that feeling of connection is going to be the same, so it's going to help you recognize it for both partners. So way out there, take what you like. I won't be offended if you don't take anything. But just another way to look at things that it's been interesting to me. And we didn't have time, but the Kazushiwaza, if you start looking at the Kazushiwaza with some of these ideas in mind, you get some really interesting stuff. So, thank you guys.